She wore a security uniform and carried a walkie-talkie, so no one asked if she spoke Arabic, Mandarin, Russian, or French. They didn't ask because they never looked twice, until the CEO caught her fluently correcting a billion-dollar client mid-sentence, in perfect Japanese. What happened next didn't just shake the top floor. It rewrote the company's future. But who tried to stop her rise, and why? Keep watching. The most overlooked woman in the building is about to become impossible to ignore. The floor was marble, cold and pale under the flick of overnight fluorescence. Nia Warren walked it like a whisper, badge clipped to her hip, eyes never idle. Her security uniform was pressed, her boots silent. The executives who brushed past her every morning never looked down long enough to notice the earbuds tucked in her collar. One in, one out, feeding her German grammar drills while she worked. At 5:53 a.m., the east elevator opened. Nia paused. A courier tried to bypass check-in with a cocky glance and a package labeled urgent. Nia's arm blocked him before he could blink. Calm, wordless. She radioed the floor, verified the recipient, and handed back the clipboard. He looked her over like he hadn't expected her to read. She didn't flinch. The door closed. The hall was silent again. The day crew arrived in waves, pencil skirts, suede loafers, double-shot espressos. No one said good morning. No one ever did. The only acknowledgement Nia got was a half-smile from the janitor, Rosa, who mopped silently by the vending machines. That, and the occasional look from mid-level manager Clark Peterson, who once told her in the break room, "You speak well for someone from the Bronx." Nia remembered that. She remembered everything. At 9:07 a.m., a language echoed down the lobby. Fast, sharp Japanese. A VIP tour had arrived. Foreign investors, flanked by legal, HR, and Victoria Ellison herself. The CEO's heels struck the floor like punctuation. They moved fast. No one saw Nia watching from the corner camera bank. No one heard her softly translate the investor's words under her breath. "This system is outdated. They're covering it up." The translator stammered, missing it entirely. Then Nia stepped forward. Quietly, calmly, she said something, 6 fluid syllables in perfect Japanese, and the lead investor turned around like someone had fired a gun. The group froze. Victoria Ellison's head tilted slightly. "Excuse me?" she asked in English. Nia didn't repeat herself. She simply nodded toward the client. "He said your platform architecture has vulnerabilities. He thinks you're not aware." The translator turned red. The investor nodded, impressed. Victoria didn't speak. She looked at Nia for the first time. Really looked. The rest of the tour moved on. By noon, Nia's name had traveled to 5 departments. By 1, the head of international affairs wanted to know if she was freelancing as a language specialist. By 2, Clark Peterson stopped by her desk pretending to check on lobby security protocols. "Didn't know you spoke. What was it?" he said, hands in his pockets. Nia met his eyes without blinking. "Several." He laughed, forced. "Well, I guess uniforms come with surprises." He walked away before she could answer. He didn't want one. That night, HR called. Asked if she had time to meet the next day. No reason given. "Just bring any documentation of your credentials." Nia hung up the phone and stared at the blinking security feed. 2 women in pencil skirts laughed as they exited the elevator. They didn't know she spoke French and understood every word of their mocking joke about her hair. She didn't react. She logged the footage and went back to scanning. The next morning, she came in early. Not for the meeting. For herself. She stood in front of the lobby's massive glass wall as the city lit up behind her. Hands clasped, breath steady, she mouthed a phrase in Arabic, then switched to Korean, then to Portuguese, then Spanish. Her lips smiled just barely. At 9 o'clock sharp, HR tried to mask their curiosity. They asked for her resume, her certifications, her transcripts. She gave them everything in a black folder, already printed, already tabbed. She answered their questions slowly, clearly, in 5 different languages. They didn't know what to do with that kind of precision. Across the building, whispers started. About the guard who spoke like a diplomat. The one who'd been invisible for 2 years. Clark Peterson called an emergency team meeting. Perception matters, he said. We can't just let a guard start undermining our structure. But Nia wasn't trying to undermine anything. She was just letting them see what they'd refused to. At lunch, Victoria Ellison walked into the lobby alone. No entourage, no clipboard, just silence, and her eyes locked on Nia. I want to talk, she said. Nia nodded once. She didn't rise. She let the CEO sit first. And in that pause, that flicker of reversal, the balance shifted. Victoria folded her coat over the chair. But Nia didn't sit until the last button on the CEO's blazer clicked shut. Victoria asked why a linguistics graduate took a midnight shift post. Nia answered in clipped English. Student loans, an ailing mother, Manhattan rent. She did not mention how many resumes had vanished after her photograph loaded. Victoria's gaze softened. I'd like your help tomorrow, Japanese, Portuguese, maybe Russian. Nia nodded. The CEO extended her hand to seal the promise. Nia's palm stayed by her side just one heartbeat too long, and Victoria felt the cost of old dismissals. Word of the meeting crawled up 14 floors before lunch ended. Clark paced the corridor outside HR, muttering about chain of command. In the boardroom, Victoria rehearsed slides while Nia translated bullet points under her breath, smoothing syntax with surgeon precision. An assistant offered Nia coffee. She declined in flawless Italian. The intern's eyes widened. Clark watched the exchange through polished glass, the reflection of his own suit suddenly smaller than the guard's reflection beside it. At 3 p.m., the first client call connected. A Brazilian fintech VP began in rapid-fire Portuguese, probing for weaknesses. Nia stood behind the conference table, hands clasped, mouth still, until she heard a technical misstatement that could cost millions. Without permission, she corrected it, voice low, grammar perfect. The client paused, intrigued. Victoria nodded for her to continue. When the call ended, the CEO asked, "Where did you study?" Nia answered, "Mostly during graveyard shifts, ma'am." A single chuckle snuck out of the senior counsel. It died when Nia met his eyes. Elevator doors whispered shut on the ride back to the lobby. Clark cornered Nia alone. "Don't overstep," he hissed, breath coffee sour. "Translators sit down, guards stand." Nia tilted her head, absorbing the directive like distant static. She merely pressed the lobby button for him, an usher's gesture. The stainless panel reflected Clark's irritation and the quiet certainty in her face. That night, an urgent schedule change cut her hours in half. No explanation. Payroll would notice next cycle. Rosa the janitor found the memo taped crooked on Nia's locker like punishment graffiti. Nia smoothed the paper flat, folded it once, and slid it into her pocket. She didn't speak. She checked the security cameras instead, and noticed Clark leaving HR with the payroll supervisor 10 minutes earlier. The next morning, an all-staff email praised team player Clark Peterson for supporting multilingual client engagement. Screens pinged across cubicles as employees read the false credit. Nia read it once, saved a PDF copy, then opened a private folder marked Documentation. Inside, a growing archive of microaggressions, time-stamped footage, altered schedules, and now a new attachment: Clark's stolen applause. At 11:17 a.m., fire alarm lights stuttered. Building policy required the security desk to coordinate multilingual evacuation. Clark seized the microphone, stumbling through scripted English only. French executives looked panicked. Nia stepped to the auxiliary console, toggled languages with a code only night staff memorized, and issued comm directions in French, Mandarin, and Arabic. The lobby emptied in record time. When the fire marshal confirmed it was a drill, Victoria's gaze slid from smoke detectors to Nia's steady hands on the master panel. Lunch hour. Victoria summoned Clark, HR, and legal to her office. Nia wasn't invited, yet thin walls betrayed raised voices. Credit theft, retaliation scheduling, hostile work environment. Clark emerged pale, tie askew. He walked past Nia, eyes fixed on the atrium floor. She noted the tremor in his hand, the first visible crack. At 4 p.m., Nia sat in a small glass cubicle outside Victoria's suite, compiling a multilingual risk report Victoria requested. She noticed an internal chat thread still open on the computer. Senior managers joking that the lobby polyglot can polish our shoes next. She screenshot every line, saved it beside the PDF, and emailed the package to herself with a subject line, "Silence has a memory." Just before shift end, IT analyst Malik Coleman, one of the few who greeted her by name, slipped her a flash drive. "You didn't get this from me," he whispered. On it, a month of server logs showing Clark editing HR timesheets and altering emergency drill credits. Malik's last words before walking off: "People forget the system records everything." Nia locked her booth for the night, flash drive warm in her palm. She glanced up to see her reflection in the lobby's 10-story window, security blues under harsh light, then past it at the skyline pulsing with possibility. Behind her, the elevator chimed and Victoria stepped out alone, eyes unreadable. "Tomorrow, 8 a.m., the CEO said softly. "Top floor conference. Your insight is required." Nia nodded once, throat steady. As Victoria ascended a spiral stair to her office, Nia slipped the drive into her jacket. The building's power had already begun to realign, quiet as her footsteps across cooling marble. A thin fog crept across the city skyline the next morning, and Nia arrived 15 minutes early, her uniform replaced by a slate-gray suit. Clean lines, high collar, minimal makeup. Her heels didn't echo like they had in the lobby. Now they whispered purpose across polished marble. As staff entered the building, glances turned into stares. The security guard wasn't guarding anymore. She was walking toward the executive elevator with a badge that read, "Strategic Language Analyst." Clark arrived late, saw her, froze. The smile he practiced in the car withered. He tried to step in behind her toward the elevator. The scanner blinked red. Access denied. Nia didn't look back. She pressed the 15th floor button, doors closing on a stunned silence that felt more final than any slam. Inside the top-floor conference room, 6 department heads waited. Victoria stood at the head of the table, arms folded. "Gentlemen, you've already seen the proposal. Today you'll meet the one who wrote it." Eyes turned. Nia walked in, tablet in hand, unbothered. The director of global outreach cleared his throat and leaned forward. "You wrote the dialect matrix?" Nia nodded. "And cross-referenced it with regional compliance loopholes?" Another nod. Victoria smiled faintly. "Ms. Mensah is the reason we're still in negotiations with the Tokyo firm." Someone asked which languages she spoke. Nia glanced up. Fluent in 8: French, Russian, Arabic, Portuguese, Mandarin, Yoruba, Japanese, and Spanish. Working on Korean. Silence followed. One exec chuckled, uncertain. "So, what were you doing on night patrol?" Nia didn't blink. "Learning the building, watching who talks, and how they listen." A hush fell. The only sound was the hum of the city below. Midday, Victoria announced a restructuring. A new role, Director of Multilingual Operations, reporting directly to the CEO. Created effective immediately. The memo went out in 5 languages. Nia's name in bold. Clark's title nowhere. At his desk, Clark fumed. He dialed HR, legal, even finance. No one returned the call. Instead, he received a calendar invite. Compliance review meeting, required attendance. Attached were documents from Nia's archive, screenshots, logs, time-stamped edits. His face drained of color as he read the words, "Violation of federal labor statutes." One phrase stood out in bold, "Whistleblower-protected disclosure." Later that week, a regional board member visited unannounced. They requested a private tour in Arabic. The receptionist faltered. Nia appeared silently behind her, picked up the thread mid-sentence, and guided the board member with grace through the building she once patrolled. Every floor, every face, every exit. She knew it all. Clark passed them on the 3rd floor. The board member raised an eyebrow. "He's the one, yes?" Nia answered in Arabic. Yes, he believed silence meant weakness. The board member nodded. And now, Nia turned toward the window. Now silence is his consequence. That evening, Victoria called Nia into her office. Dimmed lights, soft jazz playing. She poured tea, offered none. Why didn't you report Clark sooner? Nia's reply came slowly. Because I wanted you to see him first, without my words. Victoria looked down at her tea. And you trusted I would? Nia met her gaze. No, but I trusted you'd want to. Victoria leaned back, something reverent in her posture now. You're not done here. Nia simply nodded. By Friday, Clark's desk was cleared. Official reason: failure to adhere to company integrity standards. No party, no goodbye, just one final email, the kind no one opens. The next morning, his parking pass didn't work. A security officer walked him out. She didn't speak. He didn't look back. Down in the lobby, Rosa the janitor paused her mop to hug Nia. You didn't have to stay, Nina. Nia smiled. But I did. Someone always has to be the first one through the door. Outside, the sky was heavy with rain. Nia stepped into it without flinching, letting it soak her collar, her lashes. No umbrella, no fear, just forward motion. Behind her, through 10 floors of glass, employees watched. Something had changed. Not just a promotion, a rebalancing. Because when the woman who used to guard the door starts opening them, others start walking through. The building was quiet that morning. Rain tapped soft rhythms against the tall glass windows as Nia stood once again in the same lobby where it had all started. No badge, no uniform, just a charcoal wool coat and quiet eyes that had seen too much to blink now. The receptionist stood when she saw her. Director Mensah, she said with a nod that wasn't just formal. It was reverent. Nia walked past without a word, her heels no longer echoing, just gliding. A few new hires whispered. One of them asked, wasn't she security? The other just said, that's what they thought. Victoria met her on the executive floor. No introductions this time. They stood side by the window, overlooking a city waking up. You should know, Victoria said. The board wants to offer you the global integration lead. Nia didn't react. Would require travel. Berlin, Lagos, Seoul, wherever bridges need building. Nia didn't answer immediately. Instead, she reached into her coat and pulled out her original security badge, slightly scuffed, still clipped to the same cord. She placed it on Victoria's desk. Let them remember where I started, she said. Leave this in the training room. In the break room later that afternoon, a woman from accounting stopped Nia. My niece speaks 3 languages. She didn't think there was space for girls like her in places like this. Nia paused. There wasn't, she said. Now there is. Word spread. Of the languages. Of the documents she exposed. Of the way she never raised her voice, yet made the whole building listen. Janitorial staff started getting language stipends. Interns of color were offered mentors. Security roles now came with career advancement plans. None of it was dramatic. Just change, quiet, firm, and permanent. Clark never came back. He sent one email to Victoria. I don't understand what I did wrong. She never replied. On Nia's final day in the office before taking the international role, she walked into the lobby one last time, now humming softly to herself in Yoruba. A young woman was at the desk, new security recruit. Nervous, black, watching Nia like she was looking at a future she hadn't believed in until now. Nia stopped, removed a small folded note from her coat, handed it to her. The woman opened it after she left. It read, never let their silence make you question your voice. Outside, the sky had turned a bold, uninterrupted blue. Nia didn't look back. She didn't need to. The building would remember her. The people would follow her. The system would never again pretend she was invisible. She had opened a door no one could close. And now it's your turn. What did you think happened next? Would you have kept silent or spoken up like Nia? Have you ever been underestimated just because of how you looked or where you started? Tell us in the comments. Your story might be the one that changes everything. Like, share, and subscribe if this story moved you. Let's bring more real justice stories to light. One voice, one story, one truth at a time. This is Justice Throne, where silence ends and dignity rises.